I live alone in the suburbs near Philadelphia. It was a very cool night with some visible fog outside. It had been like any normal night. I binged on some shows on Netflix, watched some sports, and then when it was getting late, I decided to go to sleep. This is where it all started. When I was starting to close my eyes, I heard some movement in the basement. I decided to check it out. I didn't see anything, just a few boxes out of place. I dismissed it as a simple rat running about. I've had rat problems before. Then once I went back to bed, I started nodding off when I heard more movement. I didn't check it this time because it was probably another rat. I finally fell asleep and I woke up around 4 AM to go to work. As I was eating breakfast, I heard more movement again and I ignored it. But this time something was off. I started hearing heavy footsteps and what sounded like growls. Not normal, typical growls. They sounded very deep. And that's when I decided to call the police. I could hear the loud sirens in the distance, creeping up over the hills and getting closer to my house. Once they got there, I explained exactly what was going on, and they decided to inspect. They found nothing. One of the cops said, "You should be calling pest control instead," and let out a chuckle. Of course, with anything this crazy, no one believes you until it's too late. I decided to go down there myself again. There was something off about the basement this time. There was liquid stains on the floor. This definitely isn't normal, I thought. I looked at my phone's time and realised, damn, I'm going to be late for work, I said out loud. I finished breakfast and went to work. I told the story to one of my co-workers. Once I finished work, I headed back home, and I decided to go back inside the basement to see if anything had changed. I looked around. I noticed that several boxes had moved. This really put me on edge. I grabbed a flashlight, as the lights don't illuminate all of the basement, just the stairs to the ground floor. I found an area, a purpose-built room at the back, built with cardboard boxes, stacked on top of each other, and old blankets. I had lived in this property for 9 months, but I know for certain this was not here before. I carefully pulled the boxes apart and pointed the flashlight into the gap. I was horrified with what I saw next. Right in the centre of this area was a pentagram, drawn in red, with candles all around it. It looked like some sort of summoning circle. I really didn't know what to do at this point. There were only 2 ways to get into the basement: the door in the house and the door outside. However, the outside doors were padlocked. I'd never used them, but then I'd never had a key. I couldn't sleep, knowing I had a satanic cult in my basement. I quietly backed out of the cold, dark area and retreated to the ground floor, thoroughly checking the basement door in my house was locked. I called a friend to come over and see. I showed them the area in the basement. The candles were gone, and there was a sheet over the pentagram. My friends thought I was making stuff up, and he left shortly afterwards. After a few hours, I heard the sinister growl again, followed by more movement. I cautiously went down again, this time with my phone's flashlight and a baseball bat, ready to take a picture. I couldn't see anything odd, so I started to move to the area in the back. And there it was, the pentagram and the candles. I poked my phone through the space and took a photo. Once I viewed it, I got a message on my screen saying, "Unable to view photo. Reason, file corrupted. Error code 0x800. What? This is crazy, I thought. I decided to push the boxes aside to investigate the area. As I entered the area, a strong smell of herbs and incense hit me. I found more evidence of ritual-related objects and a sleeping bag. It then dawned on me that someone had been living in my basement, or at least sleeping in it overnight. I had a look around the whole floor. I didn't find any sign of life. However, I checked the padlock to the basement door outside. It looked recently worn. I ran down to my local hardware store and picked up a spare padlock and locked it. I thought this would at least stop them from getting back into the basement, and I would be able to sleep. Later that night, I heard some more movement again, but I ignored it and went back to sleep. The next day, when I came back from work, I found the basement door to the yard was broken. I called the cops. They found that the basement door had been broken from the inside. I realised I must have locked someone in my basement the night before. The police did a full sweep of the house. They inspected the house top to bottom, including the attic, but didn't find anyone. I moved out a few months later, like any rational person would. I keep my basement door in my new house locked. Nothing has happened since that night, but I think it's better to be safe than sorry.